but that identity of all that stuff was who I was. And I, not legally, but yes, it did occur through, you know, the law, bankruptcy, but I had to let go of that stuff. It wasn't coming back. And I wasn't that person anymore. And I turned it around. I did what you said. I created a business plan. I said, what am I good at? What can I do? And it occurred to me that there were people suffering like me that didn't have a place to go and couldn't talk to someone. And I made it a goal to provide people with a place to go to get help, to try and find encouragement, to help them restart. A lot of things that I do, it doesn't have anything to do with my job, but helping them jumpstart their business again. Just getting a jumpstart. And people that don't have the money to be able to go to someone like that, you don't have to. There's a ton of information on the web on how to jumpstart and do things and get that engine started and get that creativity so the engine of your business or your life, your family, the relationship, whatever it may be, can get jump-started again. You can find it.
I wanted to give you a scenario, and then I wanted you to share your thoughts on it. I was still an active real estate, well, I still have my real estate license, but I was still selling real estate at the time. I met up with a financial counselor who knew this woman who was about to lose her home, had enough time to sell her home, and the market was still strong enough that she would have been able to get a little bit of a profit. So he brought me in and we sat with her, and she was so stuck in being attached to that home, as you said, her identity. She was so attached to it, and she was so filled with anger that her brother, who she knew had savings that he worked for and saved, that he wouldn't give her the money to help her maintain the lifestyle that she wanted to live.
Right.
And the same thing, I worked so hard, I got this house, you know, why he's not using the money, it's just sitting in the bank, why doesn't he give it to me? And I think there's a lot of the things that go on into our minds. I was hoping you could address some of a little bit, elaborate more on the fallacies of all that, and how just these belief systems or these assumptions, they're like brick walls, and we can't move forward because we're so trapped in these different things. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I go to use a lot of dating analogies because I think it all comes back to that dating, getting to know someone, whether it's male to male, female to female, male to female in business. It's all dating. We're getting to know one another. So dating is kind of that getting to know and feeling comfortable, know, like, and trust someone you want to work with. But I always ask people when they don't want to do something or predisposed to think something's a certain way. For example, maybe this woman who's hanging on to this home and she thinks her brother should give her money because that's who she is and he should buy into her identity. But I use things like, you know, have you ever gone out on a first date before? Somebody that's married, for example. Did you ever go on a first date before? And they'll say, well, yeah. I said, so is your wife, is this your only first date? Oh, no. She wasn't my first date. Well, wait a minute. You went on a first date, it didn't work out, but you kept trying and you tried other things, and then you finally married somebody. So we forget those things. So a little off point, but getting back to, we're predisposed to think a certain way about who we are and how we should be. But again, it goes back to, it doesn't really matter. We're kind of an entitled society, frankly. We know that, and it's an overused word sometimes, but I don't know. I think that it is true. We're entitled, and that defines that. That says I'm not willing to be uncomfortable. I'm not willing to be challenged. I'm not willing to change. And I call it an adventure. Kids are a perfect example.
Perfect.
I hear it all the time from families with kids. Oh my gosh, we got to move. Oh my gosh, the kids. It's going to be tough on the kids. The kids. I know, having done this with my kids, that came across our mind, and it was very concerning for us because we were worried about how that psychologically would affect them being uprooted from a home, not a house, a home. Kids are resilient. They get it. Moreover, they'll do things, and even as adults we can do things. It's called an adventure. If we take it from, instead of focusing backwards, where we're leaving and going from that thing, because that's really what's tearing her back. She's holding on to the thing. She can't look back at it. She's not willing to go away from it. Is turn the arrow around and go towards that thing. So her family should focus on not this thing over here, but where she could go on this other venture. And if she had equity in it, money that she could get out, you can take that and say, okay, if you had 100,000, if you had 50,000, if you had 20,000, if you had 10, whatever it is, what could you do now today that you can't do right now? What would you do with it if you had it in your hands that you can't do right now? Forget the house and the building and the stuff, because we can always have more stuff. we attained it before. We can always get more stuff. We can always make more money. Where are you now with your family, with your life? Where would you go on that adventure? What would you do? And again, some people are caught up in it because they don't look at it that way. There's a good analogy. It'd be like, Sophia, I said, hey, we're going on a trip. We're leaving, meet me at the airport Monday morning, 8 o'clock, American Airlines, we're going on a trip. Be packed, ready to go. Now, how do you feel about that? Is that uncomfortable, or are you going, woohoo?
Well, I'd say woohoo, but I'd say, what kind of clothing do I need?
Exactly.
Summer clothing or winter
Okay,
clothing?
let's stop right there on that thought. The thought to say to yourself what kind of clothing already causes you to worry about it. It's concerning because is it warm? Is it cold? And then the next question is going to be, how long? Do I need to turn off my mail and have it forwarded? Do I need to feed the cats and the dogs? And what do I do there? And where are we going? And will I like it? And all those things that come up. So you can't just say, I'm going to go on a trip. Because nobody does that. We plan it. We know exactly what hotels, where we're going to go, what beach we're staying on. If it's camping, we know what we're going to pack for backpacking. We plan it. So you talked about that earlier. It's not a matter of just saying, let's go, or let's have hope. Hope's a big word.
Yeah, I know.
I hope. That's not what we're
Well, it
talking.
reminds me of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's like, let's define it a little bit.
So Terry has a way out there.
Yeah.
So I think that if people can say, okay, let's mourn. Let's go back to that point.
Right, very important.
Let's mourn this. Let's wear that sweater for a couple weeks. I don't live here anymore. I'm not doing this. This person, if it's a relationship, I don't have that person in my life anymore. Because we get caught up in the comfort of that. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. So get caught up in wear the sweater of he's not, she's not in my life anymore. I'm okay. I walk into a restaurant alone. I go here alone. I do this alone. I shop alone. I don't have this house. I don't have this car. Whatever it is. Wear that. Wear that for a couple of weeks. Mourn that feeling. And then, while you're mourning it, start creating the trip. The hotel you're going to stay in, what kind of food you want to eat, when you'll leave, when you'll come back, all the things you have to do to take care of business at home before you leave on the trip, what kind of clothes you wear, is it hot, is it cold, is it long term, is it hot and cold? I mean, all those kind of things start to lay out. That's the plan you were talking about. And if you don't do that, then it won't come together. It's a process.
And then when your thoughts are on the plan and you're creating it, the strategy, and you're implementing it, actually, and you're making sure it's very applicable to your situation, I think that gets you out of your depression, because you take one step, the next step, the next step, and then it's like it's action, and you, like you say, you're moving forward. So the more steps you take, the further behind all that darkness is, basically.
That's true, and opportunity arises from that too. Opportunity, right. Because you run into your future boss, your future job, your future spouse, your future whatever. You run into things. If you're standing still, it's reactive. Right. And that's also creates, I think, a lot of depression for people, because we, staring at four walls, not metaphorically, but staring at four walls all day will feed the depression, will feel that anxiety and eliminate or subdue the creativity that you have to have if you're in the crap and you're trying to get out, or the quicksand.